Good evening, everyone who has joined us for another special project webinar hosted by Leo Crowdfunding. Tonight, absolutely delighted to welcome James Cross from Crossover Property. Hi, James, how are you?
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, absolutely brilliant. Looking forward to this. I really enjoyed the ones we did about 2 weeks ago. So looking forward to tonight in terms of some of the updates. And yeah, it's been interesting. 2 weeks passes very quick. Doesn't seem that long since we were actually on the last ones, but here we are, and we will mention later that the project is going live tomorrow. So all very exciting for James and his team. Also joining us today is once again Sophie Lowther, who is our investor portfolio manager. Hi, Sophie.
Hi, okay.
Yeah, fantastic. And you'll obviously keep an eye on the questions as they come in, and keep me right if I forget anything that I'm supposed to update on. So in capable hands there. So this is a project webinar for the Spring Lane project in Lamley. We'll obviously get into the details on that just in a second, but it's brought to you by Crossover Property, obviously James and his team. So we will get into that now. Again, normal housekeeping applies. This is a project webinar that is being recorded. So this recording will go out to those who attended tonight and also to those who registered but who were unable to attend. If I could also remind everyone that we do want questions tonight. One of the values that we bring to this type of an event is that obviously James, as the fundraiser, is here live on screen on camera, and you have the opportunity to interact with them. So it's a great opportunity to get questions about him and his background and his track record, or anything about the actual project that you're not sure about. This is the best forum you're going to have to actually interact live with James. So put your questions into the Q&A. So we don't use the chat box. Please put them into the Q&A. That means then we have a written record that we can add then to our forum on our pitch pages, and it's easier for James to answer questions in a written form as required. So please do use the Q&A. Any question you have, don't be afraid to ask it. This is what the event's about. Get all your questions answered before obviously we go live at 12 o'clock tomorrow. So before we kick off, just what we call the introduction, or the compliance umbrella is what I sometimes refer to it as. So Leo Crowdfunding, my name is David Johnson. I'm the CEO of Leo Crowdfunding, and we are an equity property crowdfunding platform. Now, if you look along the bottom there, you'll see reference to a risk warning, and I would definitely encourage everyone to have a read at that risk warning and understand the nature of this type of investing. If you go along the bottom, you'll see Leo Crowdfunding has what's called an FRM number, and we are an appointed representative of Sharon Limited, which is authorized and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority. Pitches for investment are not offered to the public, and investment can only be made by registered investors on the basis of information provided by Leo Crowdfunding. So another way of hearing that is, what you're going to see tonight, what James and I are going to present to you tonight, has been approved as a financial promotion. And therefore, you take the information, have a look at it, do your due diligence, and then you make a decision if you feel this is an appropriate investment for you. So clearly that's a decision that you have to make, but you should be aware that everything we present to you has been approved as a financial promotion. So this is really what we're going to cover tonight. This is the main topics, a bit more about James and his team, of course, about the project, where it is, the financials, appointing you to the equity offer document for further due diligence, and then what are the next steps. And of course, we'll have a Q&A at the end. So without any further ado, straight over to James. Again, James, absolutely delighted to have you here. We met a few months ago at the Developer Club. You were actually presenting that day, so it was great to hear about your track record live in the room and all the things you've done. So we're delighted to have you as a fundraiser on our platform. And yeah, over to you to explain a bit more about your background and some of the things you've done.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, thank you, David. So yeah, I started Crossover Property back in 2018 now, sort of officially incorporated in 2019, so just over 5 years. In that time, we sort of worked our way up, across the sort of property, if you like, echelon of all different investment and development type projects. We've done everything, started off doing our buy-to-lets, HMOs, moving into commercial conversions and new build developments. So we've got a lot of we've done over 50 projects now in total. Basically, so it's given us a lot of experience in different aspects of the property industry and sort of working our way up slowly rather than jumping on big stuff straight away. You can see we did a recent project last year, which was a 5-bed detached new build. It was an infill plot we took through planning, essentially a neighbour's back garden. We sold that off plan. I think we just poured the foundations by the time we'd sold it. So we knew, the 6 months we were building it out, we had a sale agreed, which was really, really good. And we got 600K for it, which was basically what we're expecting. So really pleased with that one. And then recently we finished spring this year, a 20-bed supported living care home conversion. So that's now on a 5-year lease to a supported living company with a option to purchase and a GDV of 1.275 million. We've got, I had to count them all up and see how far we've come, but over 50 projects and 15 million of GDV so far. Obviously when we started, that was a lot of buy-to-lets, and as we've grown, I think we've done over 5 million in the past year alone. So it's only sort of growing and moving on up.
Brilliant. And just from a point of view of, I like to ask questions sometimes trying to think where I'm an investor hat. So are most of your projects within a certain geographical location of where you live and based, or do you go wherever there's a good opportunity? What's your method in that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good point. So I live literally bang smack in the centre of Nottingham. We've got an office very central as well. And my rule of thumb is I like to stay within a sort of 45-minute, driving radius of where I live in the office, and where some of our staff are as well. Mostly that's actually kept to sort of 20 minutes, half an hour at the minute, which is quite good. So we're always quite nimble, being able to nip to site when we need to and keep an eye on things. And I wouldn't really go any further afield than sort of 45 minutes, just because I think it'd be difficult to keep a handle on.
Yeah, I think that makes perfect sense, for sure, as a strategy. In terms of, you've mentioned staff a few times there. Just give us an idea of maybe your staff on the books, and then who maybe you have on call.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've actually downsized our staff a little bit this year compared to last year. So we went from 5 to 2. There's a few reasons behind that, but we are looking at expanding again later this year. But we've got a full-time project manager called Justin, who's been with us nearly 4 years now. So he's pretty much been with me since the start, and he's sort of helping with the delivery of the majority of projects alongside me. My primary focus in the business is acquisitions, investor relations, whilst also overseeing projects with him involved as well. And then we've got a project administrator who helps basically keep all our paperwork, documents, and keep things in order and making sure things are moving forward and progressing well. And we've got really good external staff, architects, planning consultants, QSs we work with. Which without them we wouldn't be doing what we're doing. So yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, fantastic. So in terms then of this project, you're obviously looking to build 5 bungalows. I'll let you explain maybe how you found the site, and where you're up to in terms of the stage of planning versus ready to start, etc. So give us an overview.
Absolutely, yeah. So we brought this site directly from the vendor, actually. I think they'd had it for sale previously. Then I think they had a sale fall through, and we got in touch directly with them through a Facebook post at some point. We basically renegotiated, quite considerably below what they had a previous offer for. We'd agreed a 6-month delayed completion, which allowed them time to shut their business down. So at the minute they live on site, and then they've got a kennels and a cattery business. So it worked for me really well, because obviously I can help, sort my funding out, get builders quotes in, get technical stuff done, ready to hit the site in January. It's got full planning permission in place as well. So it's literally come January when we're looking to start, we'll have everything in place to hit the ground running with it. We are doing some redesigns and tweaks of the internals and also the externals. So we don't believe it's the best designs, as it could be. So, for example, the site plan, we've been rejigging it actually yesterday and today, and also some of the internals just to make it most desirable to the market and also just suit the site better. And I think one big thing we're trying to do on this one as well is we're going to be using timber frame construction, just because all the bungalows are exactly the same footprint. There's 5 of them, and it makes economical sense to do that rather than traditional, and also will really help speed the build program up as well. So we can get these turned around quickly and get it completed. Oh, you're on mute, David.
Excellent. You mentioned some tweaks there to the designs, etc. Is that just like minor tweaks that can be done sort of with the designers and the architects, or is that going to involve going back through planning, because there'll be a lot of concern over the planning process in a minute and the delays, etc. So what level of changes are you looking to make?
Yeah, absolutely. It's one thing I'm acutely aware of, not to have to go back to a full full planning application, because we brought it with planning and we want to try and utilize the speed of that to turn it around. So the minor tweaks we're doing on non-material amendments. So theoretically, we can get those done before we even start on site. We're going to probably get them in the next couple of weeks, which gives us plenty of time to get those through and sorted. And they won't affect the start of the build anyway, really. So yeah, nice and easy.
Okay. So summarizing then, it's 5 bungalows. All 5 are exactly the same footprint, effectively the same unit 5 times. Planning is completely done. You're literally ready to go on site and start construction. You're going for timber, just from the point of view of speed and the fact it's all the same. And literally you're ready to go effectively.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Okay. What's obviously key, I think, if we're talking about bungalows particularly, and bungalows are something that to be fair, I've come to know a lot more of through our project committee. We have one of the guys on our project committee who is a senior debt broker, and every time we get a bungalow scheme, his eyes light up, because he's always highlighting the fact that in certain parts of the country, bungalows are in such demand, given the baby boomers and the age and people retiring and looking to downsize. So you're obviously, if you want to explain the location and confirm whether or not this is one of those areas where bungalows are sought after.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's based in Lamley, or just off Spring Lane, coming into Lamley. It's very near sort of Woodborough and the sort of Gedling side of Nottingham, which is a very nice area. It's in the countryside. It's got Gedling Country Park very near it, and the values there are quite considerably higher than other parts of Nottingham. So it's just on the northeast side. Probably takes me 15, maybe 20 minutes max to drive there from central Nottingham. We did a bit of research on the sort of area, just to look at demographics, just to make sure we matched on what we thought would sell well. So there's a stat there: 67.5% of residents are retired or over 50. So it goes to show the kind of area that that was required. And as you say, David, there's not a lot of bungalows being built, and there is a huge demand for them. We did a lot of research, both here and speaking to locals and agents. And everyone just keeps saying the same thing: that bungalows, they're going to sell extremely well. We'd have people from straight away. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to doing them and hoping we get some quick sales. And one big thing I'm looking at the minute is, or what we've discussed, is a lot of the people who are looking at these type of houses, they're not going to be reliant on huge mortgages. They're going to generally be cash buyers or very low geared mortgages, which in this market, with all the mortgage rates going up and stuff, just gives it a bit more confidence that isn't really going to be affected as much.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Actually, very good point. If you have cash buyers, then they're going to be able to use the old cash as king on their side when it comes to the purchase, but you're not relying necessarily on a highly geared mortgage. So Okay, well, that's the location. There's, of course, more information in the equity offer document, but that at least explains where it is. And the map gives you a good idea of, plenty of built up areas in terms of infrastructure and shops and amenities, but plenty of countryside as well, where you have the feel that you're actually in the country and not in a big town or city. So the best of both worlds. Okay, so explain to us then the offer to investors. What is it in terms of the? I'll just highlight, of course, this is the equity part of the capital stack. Um, Investors are um, buying shares in the SPV that will own the asset. So just explain then your pitch or your offer to investors.
Yeah, absolutely. So we plan to offer a 30% projected ROI, which is essentially 22.5% annualized. We're offering shares at a minimum of £100 per share, so the minimum investment could be £100. We're looking at this raise through 150,000 minimum and 250,000 maximum raise, and this is over an estimated 16-month project length as well. So yeah, that's what we're offering on this one.
Yeah. Okay. And in terms of the minimum, £100, obviously, you've done a lot in the past, obviously, with the amount of deals you've done dealing with investors. There's probably not too often you've taken £100 off an investor in the past, but
No.
I think you do see the value in starting to build your brand, the crossover property brand, on a crowdfunding platform, and therefore this being your first, your first raise, you're happy to kind of have a low entry level to invite more investors to come and obviously effectively try you out as a fundraiser with the intention of doing a good job, delivering, and then obviously building relationships with investors.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't plan to do one project and then retire. It's plan to do this and then keep going and hopefully do many projects with Leo and yeah, carry on working with some good investors.
Brilliant. Okay, well, I think we've got maybe the finances, and then we're on to the Q&A. So, so if we can get ready for the Q&A when it comes. Just on the financials, then it is difficult on a short webinar, obviously, to go too deep into this. They are in the equity offer document. You can go there, and there's far more information there. But in terms of the headlines, just cover sort of the main sort of expenditure lines there for us, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got a GDV of the site of 3.15 million, which is the 5 bungalows, and it also includes the house that's on the site already. So we're buying, the development site, but also an existing dwelling, which I should say we're planning to basically keep that throughout the development and then sell it towards the end. We've got total development cost of 2.6 million with a gross profit of 542,000.
Okay. Good. And your projected profit on GDV 17%, projected profit on cost 20%. Pretty standard for this type of project.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay. So on the other side then, which I'll take, this is taken from the equity offer document. I would encourage investors who are thinking about investing in this project, go to the term sheet, and it lays out all the key bits of information very succinctly and clearly in one place. So you can actually see the SPV name and then go on Companies House and check it out. You can see the maximum raise 250,000, minimum raise 150,000, the projected ROI of 30%. That's annualized at 22.5%. And you can see some of the other key things there. So what James will do is issue 2,500 shares at £100 each, which obviously equals the max raise amount. They'll be B class shares, so they will have a priority over James's A class shares. So what that means is that when we look at the profit, James talked about the gross profit there, 542,000. The first money that comes through the door has to go to you, the investors, before James gets anything. So if the project doesn't come in quite as well as James expected, and the costs are a little bit higher, and the GDV is a little bit lower, and he only makes 300,000 rather than 500,000, well, that doesn't affect the 30% ROI that's due to you, the investors. So you get paid first as a priority in terms of B class, and that's laid out in the shareholder agreement, which you get a chance to see and approve before you actually complete your investment. Exits on this are by sale is the first choice, although obviously the rental market is extremely strong in certain areas of the country. So if he did have to keep them and refinance them and rent them out, then that is a viable option as well as a plan B. So again, the bottom there explains this priority share sort of very well. And you can go through that in more time and ask any questions as required. So that's the financials, and feel free to go through those in more detail. So if you go to our pitch pages, go to our homepage and then click on the link for this project, Spring Lane, you'll see there's a register to download. For those that haven't registered, then you need to do. In fact, so if I ask you just to cover that quickly, so how does an investor come in? What do they have to do before they can get their document?
You need to make sure you're investor ready. So your KYC, you need register to start off with, confirm your email address. That's when you are registered. Then you'll need to upload your KYC documents, do an appropriateness test, which is 6 questions, I believe. And once you pass the appropriateness test, you sent your KYC and that's been approved, then you will be investor ready. And you will need to make sure you do an investor pledge. So the recorded interest at the moment, you will need to go on further tomorrow at noon when we are live, and you will need to further pledge. So even if you have registered an interest, you will need to go on and pledge again if you want to be part of the investment.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you very much. So cover the steps that Sophie's just covered there, and then you can download the document. This is the front cover of it, and it will give you all the information that you need to make an informed decision, but definitely pointing you in that direction. There's also a forum where you can go on there and look at any questions that have been asked. This is really beneficial because there's perhaps questions asked that you haven't thought of, so you can see the questions and see the answers. And if you're an experienced investor, then by you asking questions, you're helping other people make a better informed decision if this is an investment for them or not. So we really encourage people to participate by the forums, and it's a really good way of interacting with James and his team. So that's the equity offer document. Really encourage people to go and have a look at that. That's vital. Now, from tonight after the webinar, we will of course send out the recording as we mentioned. What you can do tonight, we encourage you to do tonight, if you feel this is something that you may be interested in investing in, we really encourage you to go and what we call record your interest or register your interest, as Sophie just referred there. So what this means is you indicate an amount that you may be interested in investing once you've finished your due diligence, and if you decide then to go forward. So it's like an indication of interest. But as Sophie's made clear there, when we open the raise live for investment at 12 o'clock tomorrow, those that have already done this, that is not a pledge. So even if you have recorded your interest, 12 noon tomorrow, you need to jump on, and the thumbnail will have changed to allow you to invest, and you actually need to click through and actually make your investment pledge. Now, it's still a pledge because you have to transfer your funds and accept the shareholder agreement, but it does reserve that investment amount for you if you then choose to complete your investment. If you don't reserve your money and you're thinking, yeah, I'd like to do that, and the deal fully funds, well then obviously there's no more shares for you to buy because the shares have all been bought. And we have some projects that have funded within 20 minutes. Others might take 2 weeks. I have no idea how this one's going to go. But if you're thinking this is something that you want to do, then I encourage you at 12 o'clock tomorrow, jump on, make your investment pledge, and then you can say finish your DD and ask any questions, get them answered, and go from there. So please do that tonight if you're in the category of wanting to move forward with this project. So with that, Sophie, how are we getting with questions? We're going to limit this a little bit because we don't want to go on too long, so maybe 6-7 minutes. So we'll try and blast through these quite quickly.
I think you already answered the first one. So sales are struggling, rents are booming. What's your plan B if you can't sell? I think you touched on that a couple of minutes ago.
Yeah, I think yeah, primarily it is to sell these units off plan. So we're planning to do marketing them prior to starting the construction, and then having a marketing plan through the build as well. And I think yeah, if we don't sell them, we get to the end of the build, then looking at how many we have sold, and then the option is to rent them. And yeah, that's plan B.
Yeah. And how much was the site purchase price? And it came with planning permission?
Yes, came with full planning permission, and we paid exactly $1 million for it. It was on originally with an agent at 1.5, and I had a sale fall through at 1.3. But the vendor was more concerned about the security of getting an exchange and then being able to shut her business down over 6 months. So yeah, I believe we got a good price for it.
Cash buyers still need to sell to downsize.
Yes, they do, as well as any other buyer. I guess it's yeah, they do. It is the answer.
I think that was more so a statement.
Yeah.
What is the build cost per square meter?
Good question. I don't want to guess too much off the top of my head. I think we put in around £1,700 a square meter based on what we've got from builders at the minute, and then there are some additional abnormal costs on top. But I won't want to commit on that until I double check the figures.
How does the GDV work out per square foot again, or square meter for comparison? Will there be a RICS valuation of GDV, and if so, at what stage of the development?
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know off the top of my head the GDV price per square meter, but we are going to get a RICS valuation done in a couple of months, ready for our development finance. The GDV is based off 3 different agents' appraisal of site, my own comparable evidence, but also 3 different agents' views on the sales prices as well, and realistic sale prices. So, for example, I had one agent tell me I could sell them for 600,000, but we've got them in at 550 to sell. So, yeah, hopefully that answers that question.
Perfect. And how is the rest of the project being funded? If senior and bank lending is being used, then what are the details, please? Interest rate, fixed, variable, has it been arranged already, or is it pending? And who is the provider?
Yeah, so we've been out to a few lenders just to look at approximate finance costs to put in our appraisal, because obviously the market at the minute is ever changing, and we're not actually looking to sign up a development finance company for a couple of months before we start in January. We haven't chosen one yet. We've got a couple in the front running, but they won't be chosen for another month or 2.
And how confident are you that the project will be completed in time as planned?
I'd say very. I think because it's a fairly easy site to build, there's a lot of space on it. All the bungalows are exactly the same. Will be the same sort of spec and size, and we're doing them out of timber frame. I'm confident we'll get built and turned around as per plan.
How much is the developer funding project via developers' equity?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So I plan to put in 10% of the equity requirement, which is going to be around 70,000-80,000.
Okay. And when are you looking to close the investment offer and draw down funds for construction?
So I guess with that question, it depends on how the going live goes tomorrow. I'm not in a mega rush, but I envisage it to hopefully be within the next sort of couple of weeks, a week or 2, depending on how the raise goes. So yeah, that's the plan.
Fabulous. And what is the date for investors to have funds ready by?
Similar question, I think.
Yeah, I could probably jump in, and that might help in terms of the crowdfunding process. So many investors just transfer their funds at the point of the investment pledge, because it goes into their e-wallet on the platform, but it's still under their control until they accept the shareholder agreement. So many will just move it into the e-wallet. Some choose to wait until the very final moment, until they're about to accept the shareholder agreement, and then they transfer funds. But in terms of timeline, it's usually once we reach the minimum target, or the maximum target, whatever that is, and the raise closes, then we issue the shareholder agreement. Investors have a chance to look at it. There might be a little bit of feedback. There might be the odd tweak if investors want some clarity around a clause. and then it goes back out to the investors to actually accept, and then obviously want all the money transferred. So that usually takes between 7 to 10 days after the close of the raise. So if the raise takes a day to a week to 2 weeks, and then add 7 to 10 days on, that's when James would be expecting his funds.
And is 30% your maximum payout, or is there any chance it could be a bit more based on your previous projects?
No, it's not the max payout. I mean, obviously, if we do it quicker, the 30% will still stay the same. And I believe we put in a bonus as well. So if we make more profit than the projected gross, there is, I think it was 10% of that will go to the investors as well. So there is definitely a chance to increase that should the project perform better.
And based on the £550,000 sales value, 5 times 550,000 is 2.75 mil, but 3.15 mil is shown as GDV. Please, could you clarify the difference?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a £400,000 difference, and that's the value we've attributed to the existing house on the site and the land with that house that comes. We may get a little bit more than 400,000 for it, but we've just sort of left it at a value of 400,000 for a minute.
Okay. And any conflicts of interest, i.e., are your partners investing?
No, I have no conflicts of interest at the minute. The only thing I will say is, I've opened up to my I guess circle. So if any of my consultants that work with me, they are more than welcome to invest. But I wouldn't say it's a conflict. I'd say it's a benefit, because then they're invested in doing the right for the scheme as well. So, but no family members or anyone at the minute I know of is investing.
Yeah, that's a really good question, and there is a disclosure and a conflict of interest section in the document. So yeah, if that's something someone wants to clarify, then you can definitely get that in the document, and also you could drop a question in the forum if required. So okay, excellent, some really good questions there, and very well answered, nice and succinctly. I like that on project webinars, just straight to the point and give the information. Thank you, Sophie, for going through those nice and quickly. I think that's all the questions, Sophie, as far as I can see. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I can see here.
Brilliant. Okay, so let's wrap up then the webinar. I'll let James have a one sentence finish. But what we would ask you to do, if you do have any questions, so again, remind you, we're going live tomorrow at 12 noon. So if you do have an interest in this project, we encourage you to go on at 12 noon, make your investment pledge, and then you'll have the chance to complete your DD and see the shareholder agreement before you make that final decision to go forward with the investment. But by going on at 12 tomorrow and making your pledge, you've like reserved those shares if you want to continue. If you decide not to continue, then obviously those shares will be for somebody else to purchase. So that is the timeline, and you can still record your interest tonight. But download the document, do your research, ask any questions. If there is a technical question about onboarding and registration, we ask you that you don't contact Sophie directly on her email. If you go to investors@leocrowdfunding.com or support at, or you can actually access through your back end. So if you log into your profile on the platform, and there's a messaging section there, you can actually email us directly in the back office as well. So we encourage people to do that if they can. So we'll get any questions we'll have answered, and we'll go from there. So again, thank you very much, Sophie, for your help tonight. Have I forgotten anything, Sophie?
I don't think so. Just it's been extremely popular, so I've been very busy on the phones this week with this investment. So hopefully that continues. It's good being busy.
Brilliant. Okay. Yeah, we actually had a project payout, I think, yesterday, from another fundraiser who paid back. So I think that maybe had some people contacting you because they had money in their e-wallets, and they're like, okay, what is this Spring Lane project, and what's the details about it?
My phone's not stopped.
I'll
put the phone down and I pick it up again. Hello.
Good. So that's grand on that. So James, listen, we'll give you the last word just about the project.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, thank you very much for having me, and thank you to everyone for listening. I'm really excited to get on with the project, and hopefully a few of you will be involved in it as well. So yeah, thank you.
Fantastic. Okay, I will end for there. Thanks everyone for joining us. Really appreciate that. Hope you've enjoyed it. And again, reminder, if you want involved in this one, 12 noon tomorrow, make your investment pledge. All the best, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Bye.